Good morning. My name is Dr. Daniel Black, and I'm a professor here at Clark Atlanta University in the African American Studies Department. And I'm first thrilled to be here at this big conference. And I have to tell you that when I start thinking about issues of spirituality, right, issues of religion, questions of theology, I come to this from a very different kind of vantage point. Right? I'm guessing all of you are either seminarians, theologians, religion majors, yes? No. Oh, okay. Then tell me like what your majors might be.
Business management, academics,
Okay. Okay, this is awesome. Then this is gonna be even better. That even excites me. Do I need to use that? Okay. You're recording. And you can't hear me? Okay, this will help. Okay. Then this is going to excite me because what I want to do today is to walk you through a transformation that happened among African people that I think we've really horribly underestimated. And in some instances, I think we might have missed it altogether, right? And so what I'm thinking about is, I think we can all agree that when folks came to Africa and captured our ancestors, brought us to this place, took us throughout the diaspora, we were people who already knew God. Yes? Right? Let's make sure that we don't give God unto some other folks as if we didn't know who God was. All right? All right, we'll start there. My question is not whether or not we knew God. My question is how the moment this trip across the water rearranged our relationship with God. How did we come to think of God differently? How did we begin to understand God differently? What did we do with our theology, right? Theology is this whole question of the way we see God, the way we understand God, and our relationship to God, and our whole worldview around this God question, right? So I'm very interested in the ways in which our notion of God and our understanding of God shifted because of this moment called the Middle Passage. Everybody's heard the Middle Passage, right? I believe, and this is my own argument, I believe that we have done almost no theological work around the way in which really black theology gets birthed during the Middle Passage, right? I think it happens actually on the boat itself, where we begin to think of new ways that we understand God, or God help me, we trade out some spiritual notions for some new ones. We birth some new ways that we come to understand who God is on this thing called the Middle Passage. The reason this is important, of course, this session is ministry through academia, right? And the reason I want to do what I'm about to do is because one of the things that I think black folks in general and the black church specifically could do a little better job with, and that is understanding and incorporating the ways in which intellectual growth and intellectualism is a spiritual process. Right? So that, have you ever heard a sermon on Sunday morning and the preacher stops and says, what do y'all think about what I'm saying? Here, tell me. Most times, no. In other words, the preacher's talking, right? And those of us in the audience, you getting it, you sleep, you're bored. I done heard this before, but there's almost no interaction between the preacher and the audience on a Sunday morning. Y'all feel me? It's like that happens on Wednesday night. But why can't that happen Sunday morning? Why can't that happen Sunday morning? And what would be the difference in terms of the theological experience, right? So part of my role in academia is I've begun to look for places where African spiritual notions and African spiritualities were birthed, changed, evolved, renovated in places that we have not looked. Right? And one of those places for me is this thing known as the Middle Passage. What a lot of things black folks have done is, we'll go back to the American plantation. We go to James Cone and start talking about black liberation theology, which absolutely has its place. Yes. I'm saying before we get to any of this, black people's notion of God was completely overwhelmed, totally overwhelmed and overhauled in 3 months. In this traumatic moment called the Middle Passage. Because we had to shift some things we thought we knew, right? So what I want to do, I wrote a book titled The Coming, right? And I want to read an excerpt to you. And what I want you to do, right, is get out your pencil and paper, right? Grab your pencil and paper, if you would, everybody. And what I want you to do, as I'm reading this excerpt to you, I want you to jot down, that right there sounds like they're talking about notions of God. That right there sounds like they're speaking about something new theologically. I want us to do this kind of academic search for the ways in which our experience on the Middle Passage changed our understanding of who God is. All right, y'all feel me? Okay, get my eyes here. And then came the disaster. With open arms, we embraced those who looked nothing like us, assuming that all life honors life. But we were wrong. In the end, we fed and strengthened our own captors. We cannot claim naivete. We cannot say we were people undeveloped. We cannot say there were no signs. We can say only that we did not heed them. Sound wisdom was as common to us as the evening breeze. We scoffed and shrugged at elders' forewarning of a time of great tragedy and chaos. We did not believe them. We had learned to ignore our own gods, to take their goodness for granted, to believe that because of them, we were immune to external attack. So we did not hear them. We heard only what we sought to hear. But now we hear it all, echoing in our regretful memories. If only we could have seen into the future, we might have avoided the onslaught. Most of us had no such powers, though. The few who did, the seers and sages, we dismissed. They were always speaking of things to come, warning of impending disasters that rarely came to pass, at least in our lifetime. But now we know that prophecies come to one generation, but materialize in the next. If only we had listened, if only we had had more disciplined ears, but we did not. And so we blamed ourselves. We blamed our gods. We blamed each other. But there was no one to blame, only shame to bear. And pity, yes, great pity, that a people so strong missed so many clues. The forest whispered it, the birds chirped it, the trees waved it, the antelope danced it, the tall grass swayed it, the lions roared it, the elders said it over and over, beware, seek not the thing you do not need. Greed destroys wisdom. Let just enough be enough. But we were too blessed. Our abundance suggested immortality, so we stopped searching for invisible things. Our mothers had killed enough game that their sons hardly knew the hunt. We didn't know then what we know now. A life of leisure destroys a child. When there's nothing to work for, there's nothing to gain, nothing to die for. So we had to die that we might live again. Now, so far, what are they saying that is a shift theologically? What are they saying about God? What do we learn in terms of how they have operated previously in terms of their understanding of God? Talk to me. Loudly.
I would say that nature is a huge part of it.
Very good. Nature's a huge part. They said the antelope danced it, the tall grass swayed it, the lions roared it. In other words, we come from a people who believe that God speaks most often in nature. Through the rain, through the wind, through planting of seasons and crops. But all of a sudden now, we're on this boat. So then now, what is the part of nature then that we're going to have to depend on for God to speak through? Water. Absolutely. Very good. Now stay with me, y'all. This is very important. So that now, once we get on the shores of this place called America, we start talking about water in almost anything we do, in every song we sing. There are more songs about water. There are more spirituals about water than any other theme. Wade in the water. That's one, right? Oh, chilly Jordan. There are millions of songs about water. But what I certainly didn't know before I began to study this is it's not just because, that's just, wow, isn't that interesting? No, it's because it was the water that brought us. It was the water that saved us. Are you understand what I'm saying to you? It was the water that covered us. It was the water that did not betray us. The earth might have betrayed us. The trees might have betrayed us, but the water did not. The water carried us. And so we give homage to the water, even to this very day. We do this thing called pouring of libation. Y'all know what that is, right? Because ultimately, the water, for all practical purposes, was the only divine keeper of black people. And so as a result, we continue to give homage to the water. The first thing black folks did when they got to the shores of America, if you want to be baptized, we go down to the river. Again, we're back at the water. Very good, very good, very good. What else do we see here in this passage? It seemed very short, but something's being said over and over and over. Even this notion that we believed that all life honors life. But we were wrong. So they're saying theologically, we always believed that a life would honor another life. A human being would honor another human being. That's what human beings do. But when we encountered these people, we discovered something different. And what's the different thing they discovered? Talk to me. What else did they discover? Say it again. They did. That we, for the first time, we met some people who don't honor people. How you gonna live among them people? How you do that? We met people who would throw people away for no reason at all. How do you live among people like that? Because then if you become like them, now you also become a person who does not honor people. So how is this going to work? How is us living in this new land, in this new place? How in the world is this going to work? This is going to get real crazy. Of course, y'all again know stories of Middle Passage, right? That, we're on this boat for months and months and months, and people are thrown overboard. You've either read about it or seen televised versions of this. A lot of times, people die. They're packed really closely in on these ships. So then, once we step off this boat, we start interpreting life in a very, very different way than we had interpreted it before, right? And I'm going to show you that. Most of you, do you have your phones? Okay, pull out your phone a minute. I want you to go to a Bible verse. Okay, I want you to go to Okay, go to Luke chapter 13, please. Tell me when you get there. Pull up Luke chapter 13. Okay, are you there? Okay. Someone read verses 6 through 9. Somebody read it. Out loud. Whenever you're ready.
He spake also this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, and found none. Then said he unto the dresser of his vineyard, Behold, these 3 years I come And he is answering said unto him, Lord, let it alone this year also, till I shall dig about it and dug it. And if it bear fruit, well, and if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down.
Okay, pause right there. This session is on academia, right? So academia is first and foremost about the ability to discern things, to figure out things that most other people miss. Y'all, if you get a college degree and you cannot think any more clearly, any more complexly than folks who never went to school, you wasted your money. Amen, somebody. Amen. You're supposed to be able to figure out some things that other people cannot get. That's the point of being academic. It's not the point of being pompous. It's not the point of being arrogant. No, it's just like somebody saying, I'm a doctor. Fine. If you're a doctor, you're supposed to know the different valves of the heart. Is that right? Other folks on the street might not know that. But you are if you're a doctor. If you're a mechanic, if you take your car to a mechanic and that mechanic has never heard of the word alternator, you know what you should do? Drive away immediately. So you come to an academic who can't think, there's a problem. Stay right here in this parable. This parable says, all right, a man had a fig tree, right? Y'all stay with me. Man had a fig tree. He came to the gardener and said, listen, I keep coming to this fig tree over and over and over, and I don't see no fruit. So you know what? Cut it down. Let's cut it down. Because why in the world should you use up nutrients of the soil if it's not going to produce any fruit? Y'all following me? Right. The gardener says, well, you know, you're right. You're right. I'm not gonna lie, you're right. There's no fruit. That's true. But let's just give it one more year. Let's just give it one more year. I'm gonna fertilize around it, fertilize around the soil. All right. And if it doesn't produce fruit in another year, I agree with you. Let's cut it down. Now, here's what I want you all to do, right? I really, really, really need you to reach here as academics. What is this parable about? Scream it out loud to me. Having patience. Okay. All right. Somebody else, what is this parable about? Is it about planting fruit trees? Okay, what is this parable about? You got to speak it real loud. Waiting for your season. Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Somebody else, what is this parable about? Good fruit versus okay. Now, the only problem with that interpretation is in the parable, there's no fruit at all. So what is it about? You're looking right at it. And there's a reason I'm putting this on you, because the worst thing in the world we have done is come to churches and sit in silence and wait on someone else to tell us what this scripture is about. If you're an intelligent academic like you all are supposed to be, you're supposed to come to the table with some notion of what you think also. So what I'm asking you is, what do you think?
If you don't have a purpose in life, personally, then what is your purpose?
Okay, what is your purpose?
Why are we continuing seeking?
Okay, good. Brother, what's this parable about? Growth? What about growth? You're in school, right? I'm guessing you're in college somewhere? What about growth?
Growing like as a person, growing spiritually.
Okay. All right. How many people are in this parable? How many characters are in this parable? 2 people. That right there is your first problem. That's your first problem. There are 2 human beings. How many characters are in this story? Okay, tell me the characters in this story. Say it again. Okay, human A, human B, and fig tree. Why is the tree a character in this story? Say it again. Okay, that's right. The tree is the subject. The tree is the one being acted upon. Now, tell me the difference between the 2 human characters. Who are they? Go back to it if you have to. Name the two human figures. Say it again. A servant. Is there a servant in the story, everybody? Hello? Is there a servant? Okay. Is there a servant? What does that servant do? Huh? That's right. There's a gardener. Okay. And then who's the other character? Huh? Talk good. Not just a man. The owner of what? Of the whole vineyard. See, if you don't get that right, your interpretation is already headed down a path that's not going to be substantiated. There's an owner. Oh, God, help me. Listen, as black people, you better get clear of who the owner is. We've known owners who claimed us as property the exact same way this man is claiming this tree as if he owns it. And not just own the tree, he owns its production. So the problem with the owner is he's saying, listen, he's saying, hey, didn't I buy something? I bought something, right? And what did he buy? He bought a tree. He says, I bought something. I gave it to you to plant. We can easily make that assumption because he's the gardener. And we can easily make that assumption also because he comes to question him about it. Why ain't no fruit on this tree, bruh? Where the fruit? Where's the fruit? Where the fruit? But I thought I bought a fig tree. Did I buy a fig tree? The gardener said, yes, you did. Where is the fruit, bruh? I don't see no fruit. Cut it down. Is that what he says? Right? Now, he might be saying a good thing. Is he saying, is the owner saying a good thing? You saying it's fair? Cut it down. Who says, I think if you plant a tree, you don't see any fruit, it's fair to cut it down? Raise your hand. 2. Raise it high. Cut it down. Okay, good. The gardener says, if you don't mind, let's give it another year. Why is the gardener saying that? Say it again.
The tree is still alive. Potential to bear fruit. It's not dead.
That's true. It's not dead. That's true. Stay there, brother. It has potential. Now, so why hadn't it borne any fruit these 3 years? Who knows? Okay. But you're saying, this gardener's saying it still could. Right? Do you agree with the gardener or the owner?
Gardener.
Why?
Because he works with these plants. He knows how they work. He doesn't just own them and say, you're mine, but I work with you. I help you I nurture you and help you to grow. Good. Stay right there. Just stay right there. Brother, tell me your name. Coleman. Stay right there, Coleman. Now, what you said is not necessarily directly in the text, but it is true. If he's the gardener, he probably planted it. Yes? So the gardener comes along and says, but he says something else very specifically too. What exactly does he say to the owner? Go back and tell me. What exactly does he say? Pause. He says, I'll dig around it, I'll fertilize it. So what is the gardener saying? Be careful. Yes. He's saying, I'll ask, He said, I'll dig around it, I'll fertilize it. Now, here's what's interesting for me in this text. If, in fact, he is the gardener, wouldn't he already have done that? Isn't that what gardeners do? Don't they fertilize by trade? So why is he saying now, I'll fertilize it? Let me talk to my daughter over here who gets happy about this kind of thing. Why is he saying, I'll fertilize it? Hadn't he already done that? Ooh, God almighty. In 1 minute, y'all gonna figure out what this parable is really about. Help me, talk to me. Coleman, you're doing a great job. Why is he saying he'll fertilize it now if he's the gardener? Do you think he failed to fertilize before?
No. I feel like it was intentional.
Huh?
I feel like it was intentional.
Intentionally what?
Not to fertilize it in the beginning. Maybe
You think he didn't fertilize it?
No, maybe he did it like on purpose.
Maybe he did what on purpose?
Like not fertilizing it.
Maybe he intentionally didn't fertilize it?
Yeah.
Would that be a logical move of a gardener, you think?
Not of a gardener, but maybe.
Well, he is the gardener.
Yeah. But
I love your reach. Good. How many of you think, I think he probably fertilized it when he first planted it? How many believe that? I believe that. That's okay. That's fine. That's why we're here. That's fine. Okay? If that's, who says he forgot to fertilize it? Who's saying, I just think he chose not to fertilize it? Okay, it's good. Now, I'm not sure why a gardener would choose to undermine himself and his own work. I'm not sure I believe I can see that. But let's leave it on the table. Let's say under normal circumstances that he fertilized it because a gardener would fertilize it. Why is he saying now he'd do it again? Say it loudly. Maybe he used the wrong fertilizer. That's a good possibility. Okay? Maybe use the wrong fertilizer. Now, look at me, sister. This is the problem right here. We have not done enough of this level thinking right here. There are 10 times more interpretive possibilities than what we have been taught. And sometimes you have interpretive possibilities that the teacher didn't even know. It's in your head. Maybe you use the wrong fertilizer. Possibly. What else? What else is a possibility? Say it again. Got caught what?
Well, I think you asked why did he got caught? So that's why he
got caught what?
Not fertilizing in years.
Oh, okay. You're saying he just failed to fertilize it. Okay. Let's say he did fertilize it. Wait a minute. I'm gonna stay. Ooh, this is about to get good. Say that right there, too.
Maybe the plant didn't reach its maturation age.
Maybe there's nothing wrong at all. Maybe there's nothing wrong with the tree, the plant, the planter, the gardener. Maybe ain't nothing wrong with nobody. But this is a kind of fruit that takes 5 years before the tree produces. Maybe the problem is that you want your fruit too quick. Maybe that's the issue. You can't go to med school today and be a doctor next year. Or the year after. Or the year after. So if we went to hurriedly get a doctor because we're so excited you went to med school, people are about to be disappointed. You're not going to get a doctor. Now, you'll laugh, but you'll get it. You can get a medical technician in a year. But we sent for a doctor. But be careful. The same people who sent you can be irritated by how long your process takes. Let me come out of this workshop. Listen, I can't do this today. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The same, not other people, the same people who sent you can wonder, when the hell are you going to graduate? And they were the ones crying, trying to get you to go. That is absolutely a possibility. It's possible that there ain't nothing wrong with nobody. That is possible. There's another possibility, I think, too. Because I'm still on this notion that the gardener fertilized and tilled around this tree. I believe that that's what a gardener would do. I just think that's what a gardener would do. I'm just trying to figure out, why is the gardener saying he'll do it again? Now, we in leadership don't like the part I'm about to say. And I've struggled with this myself. I just had to press myself through it as God was giving this to me. It is absolutely possible. It is absolutely possible that gardener fertilized already. But it might be possible also that I didn't fertilize as good as I thought I did. So this parable could be about you checking yourself when you start critiquing somebody else's fruit. Check the role you played in helping that fruit to come forth. Part of the failure might have been in you, even when you were thinking you did right. It is not true that every time you thought you did right, it came out true that you did right. Ain't that true? Haven't you ever meant to do a thing well and it did not come out well? Haven't you ever really, truly thought you studied for that test and you still flunked it? It's not true. No, that's high school. We in college know you can study for a test and flunk it. Don't mean you didn't study. But it does mean something. It means something. It means A, I didn't study as excellently as the teacher's standard. It means B, my old study habits, which used to get me over. I met someone. My grandma used to say, I met a man. She used to love to talk about Jesus. I met a teacher whose standard was greater than any teachers I've met. And my old study habits just would not work. Just wouldn't work. Number 3, it can mean a whole lot of things. It can mean a whole lot of things. B, C, my note-taking is not excellent. That's just some stuff I missed. So the gardener says, you know what? Y'all stare at me a minute. The gardener says, in case the tree is not producing any fruit because of me, let me check myself. In some ways, this whole parable is about self-correction. Could have been me. Could have been me. Parents spoil children for 18 years, then wake up one morning and all of a sudden want maturity. I want a disciplined child. That ain't what you raised. It would be nice to have one. Sure would. So the gardener says, you know what? Then I'm going to go back and do over again the thing I was committed to doing in the first place. Now you're going, ooh, this is going to bless you. I hope it bless you like it blessed me. And the gardener says, so fine, I'll till around it again. Reverend Proctor says, I'll till around it again. Listen, I'll fertilize it. No problem. I'll do it again. I'll check myself again. I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with me. No problem. No problem. Got it. But then he says something else. Now, this is the part that blesses me like you could not believe. Now, after I do that, I'm willing to consider that I needed to be a bit more excellent in helping this thing grow. I'm willing to consider that. And I'm going to do the work to check myself just in case it was me. Are y'all following me? But you know what he says? You know what I'm not willing to do? The tree can't blame me a lifetime if it doesn't bloom. Not a lifetime. But it gets 1 year. My failings, if it was my failings, your mama's failings cannot be used the rest of your life for why you didn't become what you wanted to become. But it might be enough to start you. You can start complaining about it. Mm-hmm. And mama can call and say, baby, I'm sorry. If I didn't give you everything, forgive me. And I think that's what this parable is about. At some point, forgiveness has got to be enough to free you. It's got to be enough, or you will be in bondage the rest of your living days. The rest of your living days. He says, that's fine. It's fine. Hey, owner, let's agree to this. I'm going to fertilize it. I'm going to dig around it. And if after 1 more year I don't see no fruit, you know what the gardener says? What does he say? Cut it down. Cut it down. Cut it down. Because, y'all, we still haven't gotten all the interpretive possibilities out of this parable. The tree might have been flawed the day he planted it. It wasn't ever going to produce no fruit. You can fertilize from now to the end of time, and you weren't going to get not one piece of apple. It was already flawed. That's a possibility, too. That's a possibility. The thing that's liberating for me is this gardener says, let me check myself. But I will not yield myself to be the excuse for this tree for the rest of its life. Now, I won't do that. I will not do that. But I'm going to start in humility and say it could have been me. The gardener's implying something else, too. The gardener's implying, if it was me, right? Stay with me, y'all. The gardener's implying, if it was me, my correction will be enough. If it was me, my correction will be enough. If the tree wants to bloom at all. If it wants to bloom, my correction will be enough. It'll be enough. If it doesn't want to bloom, no level of correction is going to help it. So ultimately, what is this parable about? So now, what is this parable about? What would you say? Self-reflection. Good, 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 good. Somebody else. What's this parable about? Checking yourself. Okay, good. Absolutely. Trust in the process. Say it again. Your season. Humility. How to fix failure. But the beauty of this, y'all, it's hard to swallow, but it's true. Don't let failure become a bondage. So that if you mess up, you are beating yourself up the rest of your life about it. Fix the thing and bloom. Or either you never intended to bloom. You were just looking for an excuse not to. And anybody else's shortcomings will be enough excuse not to bloom. Let's be honest, right, in this room. Let's be honest. Somebody in here, my daddy was trifling enough. He was trifling enough that if I swallowed my daddy's shortcomings, it would have been enough for me never to go to school in the first place. Somebody raise your hand and say, that was true for me. My daddy was trifling enough. Well, here you are. You sitting right here. So his shortcomings wasn't enough. But it could have been if you were willing to use it as an excuse. Are y'all following what I'm saying? It could have been. Some of us, I never knew my mama. Never knew her. Never knew her. This is my story. I literally never knew my birth mother. Longed for her my whole life. I never knew my birth mother. And I have a PhD. And there were days when I was trying to excuse my mother's absence as the reason I couldn't focus and study. Stay with me. My daddy told me something one day to fix this whole thing. I said, Daddy, I have a tough time studying sometimes. I still don't. He said, does your mama's absence keep you from going to the club? It kept me from doing the things I didn't want to do no way. On Friday night, some kind of way, I got healed. Some kind of way, Saturday night, I got free for them hours. Some kind of way, mama was put right on the shelf, some kind of way. Then all of a sudden, I get burdened and heavy laden when I'm headed to the library. Be very careful. There is no perfect life. There's no perfect life. None of us gets a dream life. Nobody. Into each life, what? Oh, come on, Bible scholar. Some rain must fall. Everybody's going to get a little heartache. Everybody's going to get a little frustration. Everybody's going to get a little pain. Everybody is going to get some. If you let that stop you, I'm telling you right now, you will have nothing because you're going to get it. The beauty in life is not the heartache and the pain. The beauty in life is the joy and learning how to jump over it. That's the joy in life. Oh my God, you missed a class. Listen, get somebody's notes and keep rolling. You clowning. What are you talking about? I had a hard time. My mother died. I had to bury my mother. This is my own story. So I had to sit out of school for a semester. Sit out, and then January we'll see you. You mean tell me 6 years from now we're going to be still talking about your mama's funeral? Do you know how many mamas we buried in between? And you going to bury her or she bury you? The parable is telling you, listen, you cannot use other people's failings as the explanation for your shortcomings. Because the promise of the universe, after I say this, I'm going to really just go because I just feel this in my spirit. Give me the time. I'm sorry. Give me time, somebody. God, you know what the promise of the universe is? Ooh, God. Proc, this is for you. Y'all know what the promise of the universe is to every single one of you. There's one promise of the universe. No weapon formed against you. The promise is not that it won't be formed brilliantly, though. In fact, part of the promise is that it shall be formed. But it cannot prosper. It won't. It cannot, as long as you walk in upright. That's the promise of the universe. The promise of the universe is if you want a thing, you can have it. But there will be plenty of excuses for why you can't do it if you'll take them. The universe is going to give you plenty of excuses. And you know why? You cannot be righteous by default. What does that mean, Dr. Black? You cannot have no choice but to do the right thing, and so you end up righteous. No, that is not righteous. That's inevitable. You have to have the option to be wrong in order to walk in righteousness. Huh? You have to have the option. You got to get the choice to be trifling in order to end up excellent. I can't hear nobody in this room talking to me. Are y'all understand what I'm saying to you? You have to have the option. You cannot live a life such that I was birthed in the library. I grew up I never heard no word. I never even heard of weed. I never heard of sex. I never even heard of it. So that's a righteous man. That is a naive individual. That is, and wherein there is no righteousness whatsoever. Excellence is they handed me the weed. This is excellence. And I paused a minute and considered this thing. I can't hear nobody in this room. Excellence is somebody came by the house about 12:30. Excellence is they knocked, and I came to the door. Huh? Jesus. This is when you start speaking in tongues. And I opened the door. Of course you opened the door. They couldn't have came there unless they text you first. Excellence is when you said, you know, I need you to leave, but I need you to leave in a hurry because I got about 3 minutes in me where I'm going to be able to stand in this. Please go. Hurry up. You're not rushing because something wrong with them. Somebody in the Holy Ghost with me. You're rushing because you know in just 1 minute. That's how you get excellent. Excellence, oh my God, my computer crashed. Excellence is, then I get out a sheet of paper. And I finish writing this paper. And then, of course, you can't hand in a handwritten paper in college. Everybody knows that. But my computer crashed. Follow me. So I'm going to take this paper to teacher. My computer crashed. But, ma'am, I have a paper. It's right here. Would you mind if I just ran and typed it and emailed it to you? I have a paper. Here's what we do. We come with nothing. I can't hear nobody. Dr. So-and-so, my computer crashed. How the hell I know? And how do I know you even committed to doing the paper? You don't have no computer, you don't have no paper, you don't have no notes, you don't have nothing but a sob story. Doesn't mean the computer didn't crash. What it means, the crashing of the computer was not the end of the story. That's how you walk. That's what this parable is trying to tell you. There's got to be other options other than what you have originally conceived. This is important, y'all. You got to work your theology because really if you work your theology is supposed to work for you. Right? What that means is when you walk with God, right, you're supposed to walk with God in such a way where your own convictions convict you first. Not you telling other folk about their business. Your own convictions convict you first. If it doesn't get you first, you don't have it. You're in self-righteousness. You don't have it. So here's this gardener in this story. This man is just standing by. Listen, I don't know what's wrong with the tree. Cut it down. What I love about the gardener is, you know what the gardener's saying too? That's mine. It's mine. That's what I love about the gardener. You know what he's saying? I got to fight for it. I got to fight for it. Why? I planted it. It's mine. It's about investment. Who's invested in you in that kind of way? I got to fight for it. But what you cannot do, right, and I'm talking to me, is be so invested in another thing that its growth becomes your job. Are y'all feeling what I'm saying to you? Now the tree gets to chill and I'll bring the fruit. Because I want the fruit from the tree so bad that I'll do it myself. You know what's going to happen? You're going to end up hating and resenting that tree. Though you're the one who volunteered because you were so afraid, stay with me, that in its inactivity, you would be critiqued. Does somebody understand what I'm saying? So afraid that its failure was a reflection of your failure. And so we overcompensate. So I'll do it myself. I have done this. I cannot tell you the number of times I've done this with young people. You say you want such and such and such and such. Okay, great. Then you know what I've done? I'll come and pick you up. Instead of you meet me there. You say you want it, get on the bus and meet me there. They struggle. They don't have bus fare, but you got new shoes. But because I want it so badly for them, I'll come pick you up. And when I pick you up, have you eaten? So then we go eat, and you know who's paying. So by the time the day has ended, I've spent more time, I've spent more money, I've spent more energy, and I already had the thing this person's looking for. Why am I exhausted and you up? Why am I tired and you chilling? Because I did more work in your own destiny than you did. And I don't care who you are, and I'm talking to myself. You will absolutely get tired and worn out of trying to birth somebody else's destiny as you watch yours fade right past you. Yours is your job. Theirs is their job. And your job is to make that thing grow or, and it's a hard truth, look it in the face and say, you don't want it. We hate doing that as mentors. We hate doing that as teachers. You don't want it. A man told me a thing years ago, and then I'm going to wrap this up. He said, you know what a teacher's got to do? You have to give an A as joyfully as you give an F. I'd be like, no, I want my kids to make A's, maybe a B. Come on. I want all my kids to make A's. He said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No. Some people want an F. So make sure you give the child what they desire. I said, who wants an F? I've been teaching now. Baby, I get it. 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 The way I get it. Some people work so hard for that F. And it's precisely what you should have. But I first hope that you want the A. You follow me? I'm doing the same thing the gardener's doing. That is, I'm investing in you. In fact, after you miss the first exam, I'm not going to write you off yet. No. Okay, if you do really well on the second exam, I'll count the second exam twice. I've done this as a professor. Then you miss the second exam. Okay, you know what should happen now? Tell me what should happen now. Flunk this class. Sit down. When I check myself, well, maybe the first test was too hard. Maybe the first test was too long. Maybe the first test had too many questions. I've gone through the whole thing. So fine, let me give a second one. At some point, you got to stop asking yourself the question of someone else's inactivity. At some point, you have to say, you just don't want it. And that's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly and absolutely fine. It's true that some folks don't, and it's true that some folks do, and it's true that time changes, and there was a day when I didn't, and now I do. That's true, too. So the whole thing I wanted you to see in this parable, in terms of academia, right, is to see the levels and the depths of meaning that a parable, and this parable is literally, y'all, it's 3 verses. And all of that in 3 verses? Absolutely. And the job of an academic is to unpack levels of meaning, to help people understand that there's more to this thing than you might think. This thing is more complicated than it might appear, right? There's far more here than you might know. That ultimately is what an academic is supposed to do, right? Tell me the time. How am I on time? It's probably 2 minutes? 10. Okay, great. Questions, anybody? Questions. How many of you are churchgoers? Right? Now, we're just going to be honest a minute. I don't want you to tell the name of the church. I do not want you to tell the name of the church. How many say 0 to 10, I love my church. I love what it teaches. I love how it teaches us. It's a 10. Okay. Who says not 10, but 8? Okay. Who says 6, 7? It's all right. Good. Raise them high. Mm-hmm. Right. Who says 4 or below? I'm about to be out. Okay. Right. You know what's interesting? The majority of the room says 6 or below. Right? Why? Wouldn't it have been fun if what we just did, if that was the Sunday morning sermon? Yes. Why can't we make that happen? Say it again. Oh, she said the pastor hasn't been to school. Ooh. Now, this may come off as a bit arrogant, right? But I'm going to put it out there because I'm very, very clear about this. I'm not coming to no church where the pastor ain't been to school. I'm not coming. And you know why I'm not coming? I can already read. I can already do that. You gonna read to me? I can already do that. You're shepherding my soul, and I read more than you? You don't mean that. I'm also not going to church where the music ain't good. Y'all know that's black people in general. That's black folk in general. Yes. How many of you would also say, Dr. Black, honestly, I don't know that I've ever sifted through biblical scripture the way we just did? Raise your hand if you say, I don't think I've ever done this. Raise your hand. Wow. Okay. And who said, and you can be honest, who said, and I actually enjoyed that. Awesome. That was 3 verses in that big old thing called Bible. Do you know how much there is to sift through in that? Ooh, and some of it's so good. But you're going to have to be led by somebody who knows the sifting process. That's what an academic does. That's why we love Jesus so much. Jesus was an academic, actually. Right? That's fine. You'll get that later on. Jesus had lots of degrees. Jesus had lots of interpretations, which is why the cross made sense to Jesus. Come on now. I didn't say Jesus just submitted to the cross. The cross made sense to Jesus. Because what he says is, listen, I'll be the symbol first, then. Okay, that's fine. This is for this. You know what Jesus first going to the cross? What Jesus was first saying is, we need a symbol. We need a symbol. I already walked righteously, so that cannot be the point. We need a symbol of righteousness. I got it. That's fine. I'll do it. Come on. Put me on the cross. Fine. Come on. Y'all need a symbol of righteousness? The deep thing is, why in the world would we need Jesus to go to the cross? And all Jesus' acts of righteousness precedes the crucifixion. You need something else? The water to wine didn't move you? That didn't move you? Oh, you didn't like that one? Oh. Y'all don't know Lazarus was dead? I raised the dead, and that wasn't enough? Oh, wow. You must not have been there the day that Hurricane Irma came and we were on the boat. Now, I'm going to just tell you this, right, you can just take this to the house. You know what's profound to me? Y'all know the story about the winds and the waves and Jesus was on the boat? Okay, come on. Sunday school, 101. Okay, all right. Wind and the waves, Jesus on the boat. And Jesus says, peace be still, right? That's what people shout about. That's a part of this story that I think we've overlooked. Here I go again, right, being an academic. What's profound to me about that story is not that he tells the wind and the waves to be still. What's profound to me about that story is that when the disciples are tripping because they say, oh my God, right, when they find Jesus, he's asleep. Oh. Master, the tempest is raging. What? Interpret that for me right there. I'm ready. Come on, give it to me. Make my day. Interpret that for me right there. Stop right there. Why is Jesus asleep? Huh? Say it again. He's bigger than the storm. That's good. Okay. That wasn't destruction for him. Okay. Okay. Yeah, he's asleep. Yeah. Distraction. Good. But now, how is Jesus able to sleep if the ship was rocking like that? Oh, black people. If you remember the story of Jesus, Jesus was born in a storm. Jesus was born in adversity. When Jesus is born, we can't even find a place for Mary to just go into labor. They got to go out to the barn. They call it very nicely, I think, a stable. Y'all know that's a barn, don't you? Right. Then, they try to make it pretty. Oh, and this golden hay. Hay? You know how scratchy and irritating hay is? And folks came and brought gifts. I hope they did. You got this baby out here in this barn. Okay? Now, so it seems to me that Jesus says, listen, I've known storms. This is not the first. I've seen storms my whole life. Go to bed. Storms come and they do something else too. They go. When you start rearranging your life in the middle of a storm, you're about to mess your own self up. You know what you do in a storm? You just be still. That's what you do. The old folks used to do that. Unplug all your appliances. Y'all don't know nothing about this. Y'all young. Turn them lights off and sit down. And sit down. Sit down. Be quiet. If you call them, they not answering no phone. No. You ride that out. Then when it's over, plug that back in. Let's keep rolling. In other words, you don't define your life by its adversity. You don't define life by its struggle. You define life by your success and your achievement. And when trouble comes, you let it handle its own business. And if you will be still in the middle of trouble, it will fade. It'll fade right away. If you don't do nothing with rumor, people will get tired. And they'll just stop talking about it. Right? Okay, extremely important. Let me just say thank you all tremendously for being in this session. I was hoping I'd have at least 2 people, so I'm really glad that you all came. And I pray that this was enlightening for you. Thank you very much.